You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
McConnell fiasco has Trump petrified by his biggest existential fear, based on an article by Thomas Kika. A Senate seat, a sick man, and a party that no longer trusts voters. The real story. Mitch McConnell's hospitalization is the surface event. The real story is a Republican Party that treats succession, elections, and even constitutional procedure as obstacles to be managed when they might produce the wrong result. Trump's silence matters less than the machinery around him. A Senate seat, a state law rewritten for partisan advantage, and a governing coalition that is already gaming the outcome before the vacancy is even settled. Who holds power? The power here sits with the people controlling the rules. Kentucky Republicans changed the replacement process in 2024 because they feared Andy Beshear might appoint a Democrat if McConnell left office before August 3. That is not neutral administration. That is preemptive partisan self-protection dressed up as law. The article also points to the larger federal stakes. Trump's fear is not McConnell's condition in any human sense. It is the possibility of losing Senate control, creating a disruption, and facing a chamber that could impeach him. That is what makes the situation politically radioactive. One man's medical emergency is being measured against the survival of an authoritarian-minded governing project. The obstruction legacy. McConnell is not some accidental bystander caught in a cruel turn of events. The source reminds us that he built his career on hardline obstruction against democratic priorities. He spent years weaponizing the Senate against legislative action, turning procedural choke points into a governing philosophy. That legacy matters because it explains why the story can be so easily reduced to personality gossip. McConnell helped normalize a politics where blocking the other side is the point. Now his own party is applying the same logic to succession. Not governance, not legitimacy, but control. Misdirection as strategy. The article's framing leans hard into Trump's existential fear, and that is useful but incomplete. It risks making this look like a story about Trump's nerves rather than Republican institutional manipulation. The actual misdirection is more basic. The public is invited to focus on whether McConnell is recovering, whether Trump is being evasive, whether a seat might sit vacant for months. Meanwhile, the substantive issue is that a state legislature changed the rules to preempt a Democratic outcome it disliked. That is the pattern. When elections might not deliver the preferred result, alter the rules in advance. Beshear's position that the law is unconstitutional introduces a further layer of conflict, but even that is not the central scandal. The scandal is that partisan actors are openly preparing for a legal fight over who gets to fill a seat the public did not even have a chance to contest. The loyalty test. MAGA Republicans are reportedly worried that a special election could elevate someone like Thomas Massie instead of a Trump loyalist. That detail is revealing. The fear is not merely Democratic gain, it is disloyalty within the camp. This is how authoritarian politics degrades representation. Elected office stops being a mandate and becomes a loyalty screening process. A senator is not valued for governing capacity or constituent service but for obedience to the leader's project. That is why McConnell can be both an obstacle and a liability to Trump at the same time. The only thing that matters is whether the seat serves the regime. What this story really shows. The deeper pattern is simple. Republican power now depends on narrowing Democratic contingency wherever it appears. A hospital bed becomes a strategic variable. A state law becomes a partisan insurance policy. A Senate vacancy becomes an opportunity to prevent voters from being the final arbiters. That is not institutional stability. It is institutional fear, and fear has become the organizing principle of a party that knows its agenda cannot reliably survive honest competition. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Kuzil, thanks for listening.